Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by my man, our lockdown corner here on Texas Football, Rod Babers. Rod, thank you so much for joining me this weekend. We're going to talk about The Athletic. They have been coming out with their list. This last week was their week to put out basically the best of the century to this point, the first 25 seasons of this century, the best players, coaches, games, teams. We're going to run down all of it, find out if Texas was ranked appropriately and what from Texas is missing. And maybe when this list gets looked at at 50 years, what's going to need to happen for Texas to remain there. But this episode of On Texas Football is brought to you by Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. MyPerfectFranchise.net will tell you more about Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise later in the show. Rod, let's go ahead and get started right now. We're going to start with the best games of the last 25 years. And I think most Texas fans would probably not have an issue with this list at all once you see number one, because when you talk about the best games of the last 25 years, it may be the greatest sporting event I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
The 2005 Texas USC Rose Bowl, Rod, in the number one spot, according to David Ubben from The Athletic. There have been some great games, but that one, I think, Rod, even when this list gets looked at 50 years into the current century, it's still probably going to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the star power, right? It's the star, not only the two blue blood brands of Texas and USC, but, they had, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Texas with VY, so many great players, obviously as supporting cast, but then they had the marquee, all right, A-listers. And then on top of that, you got Hollywood, literally Hollywood's involved with it. And Texas, arguably one of the top three biggest brands in college football. So I just think it's rare you get that kind of unique combination. I'm sure at one point we're going to see it come to fruition again, and maybe it'll be during the Arch years because, Texas keeps a celebrity quarterback on the roster. That's part of their allure actually now.
I love the aesthetics of that game too. I think both uniforms, Texas and the icy whites, USC and those garnet and gold uniforms. You got the mountains in the background. It's the Rose Bowl. It's Pasadena. It's Keith Jackson's last college football game he ever called. It's literally like, you've ever had like the perfect piece of barbecue, or you heard like, man, that was the perfect song or the perfect movie. It really is.
It did
the perfect football game.
Yep.
I mean, and I'm looking at that as objectively as I possibly can, even though it's hard for me to. It's the perfect game because it kept you locked in the entire way.
Whole time. And then came down to a dramatic finish. I mean, it even had the climax at the end of it all. So, I mean, it had to build up the Heisman ceremony. I mean, I just don't know if you have another game that's going to have all those different elements. I just doubt. I mean, it's not. You've had great matchups, no question about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have the start power, the build up, like you said. I mean, couldn't get in Hollywood, all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't get better than that.
I mean, you got some memorable ones. I think it's a tribute to the 2005 season because The Athletic had the USC Notre Dame game, the Bush push game at number 4. That Georgia Oklahoma Rose Bowl was phenomenal. There's other games, but for a game to exceed the hype, for the hype going into that game, Rod, that's what you said, the star power. I agree, but I think it's just as hyped as that game was, it was somehow better than we thought it was going to be. And we thought it was going to be phenomenal from the jump. So glad that game came in at number 1. A few other Texas games on the list, Rod. Number 13 on their list. Now we're only looking at the top 10 here, but number 13, actually this past season's Peach Bowl, Texas over Arizona State. I don't know that I'd call that a classic game.
Really?
The ending was phenomenal, but I mean, we're Texas fans. You'll remember that forever. For what? You remember for 4th and 13. It's just like you talk about 4th and 5 with VY in the Rose Bowl. You talk about 4th and 13 in the Peach Bowl. Rod, does the fact that Texas didn't win a national championship coming off of that knock it down the list, or is it too high? Is it just maybe some recency bias?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at it from the wrong standpoint. I just think Texas played so many other games that are better than that game. Even games they lost, right? So I'm not just trying to look at it from a home perspective. Hell, 2008, losing to Tech, that was a great game to lose that kind of game. Hell, man, there's some other. I'm surprised that 2008 Oklahoma game.
I'm glad you brought that up. So one you mentioned, the 2008 game against Texas Tech is the next one on the list at 14.
Okay, all right. That should be ahead of the Arizona State game. Dude.
It should. And the Texas game that I think is too low at number 16, the 2005 Rose Bowl at the end of the 04 season, Texas and Michigan. Again,
that was a good one.
The Rose Bowl, it's Pasadena. It's two blue bloods that had never played before. Vince Young doing his thing. Steve Breston did his best to keep Michigan in that game. It came down to Dusty Mangum's field goal at the gun. And Rod, we talk about the 05 season. I'm not sure if Texas goes into Columbus and beats Ohio State. I'm not sure they've got the confidence to do that if they don't find a way to win that Rose Bowl against Michigan, because that was the genesis of that national championship team, was that Rose Bowl win over Michigan.
Yeah, that was a different swagger they had coming out of that game. I remember. That was a great game because they were just trading kind of haymakers in that game, both Michigan and Texas. I like that. Who was the receiver? Braylon Edwards? Was that
Braylon? Yes,
Braylon. Yeah, he's a receiver. No, they had a nice receiver duo, man. I ain't gonna lie, they tested DBU a little bit. You're right about that one. That wouldn't be ranked too low. We forget about it because it's in the shadow of 05. We don't even really think about that 04 season as much, but that's a good point. I forgot how great that game was. That's a good one.
I'm getting chills thinking about it because, Rob, we think about one of your former teammates, the late great Cedric Benson, and I'll never forget Mack Brown's story. He goes in the dressing room after the game. He sees Cedric Benson in his locker and he's crying, and he's like, what's the matter? He said, I just realized I'm never going to put this uniform on again. And that's what it meant to Cedric Benson to be a Texas Longhorn. So never forget Cedric Benson. He was, and I think people forget because VY was so great. Ced was hurt in that game. He was basically a decoy pretty much the whole game, and did his best to do it. So, but Texas wouldn't have been in that game if not for Cedric Benson. You think back to that 04 season, the comeback against Oklahoma State. Casey Studdard tells a great story where everybody goes in, they're down 35-14, and Cedric Benson says something effective, hey, just give me the damn ball. And he wanted to put the team on his back and did. So it's great thinking about Texas football. We'll get more to Texas football in that era because there's plenty of it. But Rod, I'm with you. If I had to do this from a Texas standpoint, I'm going to go ahead and take that Peach Bowl win over Arizona State off and in its place. I felt like you've got your iconic rivalries of the last 25 years. You got to have one game from that series on here. I agree. Man, even if you're an Oklahoma fan, for the same reasons I love the Texas USC Rose Bowl and that Rose Bowl win over Michigan, the 08 Red River game, it was two top 5 teams. It was Sam Bradford and Colt McCoy at their peak. It's Bob Stoops and Mack Brown and Will Muschamp's defense. And you look at the NFL talent on both sides. I mean, between Earl Thomas and Trent Williams, and just start going down the list. Justin Tucker. Think about how many Pro Bowls and all pro selections and Hall of Famers are going to come out of that game. And it was a shootout, and Texas ends up winning it. It was one of those rods where you're like, man, it's a shame someone had to lose that game because it was such a heavyweight fight for 4 quarters.
Yeah. No, I remember. I said, to me, I'm surprised that 08 one didn't make it on there, man, because the anticipation up to it. I remember everybody knew both of those teams were good. Like, we knew those were 2 teams that could potentially win it all. Like, they had that kind of talent. And man, I've watched some great Texas OU games and been a part of some great ones. I don't know if I've seen one that topped that, or just the experiences, the highs and the lows, the roller coaster of emotion. That was an all-time great, iconic game.
Other than VY crossing the goal line on 4th and 5, of the last 25 seasons, is Jordan Shipley's kickoff return against OU maybe the most iconic moment for this program? Other than to take 4th and 5 out of the equation, because that's up on – that's above Mount Rushmore. It's in the heavens somewhere above.
Hey, 4th and 13, man. 4th and 13.
Yeah, it's on there. Jordan Shipley's kickoff return against OU
it's more iconic than 4th and 13.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, I need to respect Quaid more, but I'm with you. It's hard to find. I'm trying to think of one that's more. That's a good take, man. I can't off the top of my head think of a one that's more iconic or memorable.
Because I had Bob Stoops PTSD at that point, Rod. in the 2000s, and OU was up 14-3 at that point. And I'm thinking, oh man, please don't let this get away. And then boom, it's like Jordan Shipley delivered that haymaker. It's like, all right, here we go. And I'll never forget, man, they're going to commercial. And say what you want about Brent Musburger, but he could deliver some classics. And they're going to commercial, and they're doing the slow-mo. Jordan Shipley, running into the end zone. He goes, "Game on in Dallas, folks." All right. So I think we're both in agreement, Rod. You gotta put the 08 Red River game.
Got to.
That's my only complaint. A list I had a lot more complaints with, Rod. The Athletic ranked the top 25 players of the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm just going to say this. When you look at the list, you're going to see Lamar Jackson and Ed Reed above Vince Young. Now, Lamar Jackson won a Heisman Trophy. It's great. Ed Reed, I get if you're going to put somebody from that 2001 Miami team in a top 10 or on this list, might as well be the Hall of Famer. But Vincent Paul Young Jr. Rod should be a hell of a lot higher than 7th on this list. For me,
who you bump down? Who you bumping? Then?
Well, I'm definitely bumping down Lamar Jackson and Ed Reed.
Lamar, okay.
I would actually, my top 3, probably in order, would be Cam Newton, and then I may flip a quarter between Vince Young and Joe Burrow, because Cam Newton won Gene Chizik a national championship, and Joe Burrow is the reason Ed Orgeron has a national championship. So that's got to mean something.
It does, brother.
It would be hard for me to bump down Ndamukong Suh, because I've never seen a defensive lineman almost single-handedly win a championship game the way he almost did for Nebraska in that Big 12 championship game against Texas.
Unbelievable.
I would bump down Ndamukong Suh. I'll bump down Ndamukong Suh for Vince Young. My top 5 would probably be Cam Newton, in no order: Cam Newton, Joe Burrow, Vince Young, and Ndamukong Suh, Reggie Bush would probably be my top 5.
That's not bad. I saw Ndamukong Suh in that game too, so it's tough to hate on Ndamukong Suh and what he was. He was a force of nature, man. He really was. Talk about a Category 5 force of nature. Cam Newton, though, I mean, I know a lot of Longhorn fans, they look at this list and go, "Oh, Cam Newton should be number 1." Man, I've been actually making that Cam Newton argument for about 10 years or so. That he was that good. And it's similar to what you brought up. Like, you got to look at, like, VY was amazing. All right. VY was a once in a generation type player. So it's not me hating on VY. But VY had a lot of support, and he had a really good, like, supporting cast, a really good defense. And he had obviously a Hall of Fame coach. Cam Newton did not have any of those advantages. I will give this little factoid. How about this? Only one other player from Auburn's 2010 offense, their left tackle Lee Ziemba, was picked in the 2011 draft, and he went in the 7th round. They had another guy, Brandon Mosley, go in the 2012 NFL draft, and he went in the 4th round, and that was it. Those are the only 2 other guys that got drafted off of that offense, and the only skill position, receiver, running back, or tight end, that appeared in an NFL regular season game was Ontario McCaleb, who had 5 snaps on special teams for the Bengals. I'm telling you, that he was a one-man show. And so that's why I usually would give him the nod over VY. For those who want to know why that's the only reason, because he was a one-man show. And VY didn't have to be a one-man show. He probably could have been, but he didn't necessarily have to be. But who would I bump off? I'd probably bump down. I love Ed Reed, but I'd bump down Ed Reed. And put VY up there. I love Ed Reed, but VY was a more transcendent player in college than Ed Reed was. I think a little bit it's just looking at Ed Reed, just how it translated to the NFL, which was amazing. But VY had more of an impact on the game and on the program and everything. So I go VY over him too. Tim Tebow is the one that's getting disrespected here too, though.
Yeah, Tim Tebow at 8. Like, I think you look right there, Vince Young and Tim Tebow.
Come on now.
I'll put it this way.
Hey.
Tim Tebow and Vince Young should be a lot closer to Cam Newton than they are to Travis Hunter on this list.
Yeah, Tim Tebow is getting major disrespect. Travis Hunter, Man, nobody's ever really done that in the modern era of football. So I get him being somewhere in the top 10. I don't begrudge that.
And he's a Heisman winner. So
he's a Heisman winner. The Baker Mayfield won. I know Longhorn fans don't want to hear this, but man, Baker Mayfield's resume is like, it's one of the most elite in college football history. It really is. Go look at it.
Is Baker Mayfield the best walk-on story in the history of college football? I mean,
no doubt. Number one overall. Walk-on. I don't know if they count that in the college stuff, but dude, they got a Baker Mayfield rule because of that. Like,
if Baker Mayfield's at 14 on this list. Here's my other problem, Rod. Other than VY being too low, Colt McCoy's not on this list. If you've got a list of the college football's top 25 players since 2000, you're going to put Quentin Nelson and Brock Bowers on there. And look, with all due respect, I mean, Aaron Donald was a good player at Pitt, but I think that, again, that's more of being a great defensive player of your era in the game across the board.
Yeah.
Let me read you Colt McCoy's resume real quick. Colt McCoy, the 2-time second team All Big 12. Was a first team All Big 12 selection in 2009. Consensus All-American in 2008. Unanimous All-American in 2009.
Yeah.
Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year in 2006. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in 2009. Sporting News College Athlete of the Year in 2009. Twice, 2 times, he won the Walter Camp National Player of the Year award. Won the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. Won the Manning Award in 2009. The Davey O'Brien Award. And won the Maxwell Award. So Colt McCoy never won a Heisman, but he's got 3 National Player of the Year awards. And by the way, left college until Kellen Moore broke his record the following year, left college as the winningest quarterback in the history of Division I football. And Colt McCoy can't find a place on this list. That actually might irk me more than Vince Young being at 7.
That seems a bit egregious. Yeah, I'm with you. That does seem egregious. It seems like somewhere at that, we're talking about anywhere from 14 through 25 there. Seems like Colt could have been placed anywhere in that group, pretty much. I'm with you. I love me some Honey Badger. I love me some who's else? Sean Taylor. Those are great players, but I think Colt McCoy is deserving to be in that, at least in that bottom 25, part of that bottom 25.
And hey, Julius Peppers.
He was unanimous All-American. I get all. He was.
I will say this: I was in the house for the Cole Pittman dedication game against North Carolina in 2001. Julius Peppers, Rod, was not the best defensive end on the field that day. That would be your former teammate Corey Redding.
I remember that, man. He had the
front flip into the end zone. Yeah,
that was hella athletic back in the day. That was for a big, playing D tackle in the league.
Yeah, Nathan Vasher had a punt return touchdown in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cole Pittman game, right?
Yep. I just wanted to bring that up because it's fun to think about the Cole Pittman game because it was a great day and just reminding everybody that Rod Babers has a win over Julius Peppers head to head. So it's always
but you're right. Everybody was watching him that game. He didn't have a great game though. You're right. He didn't mash in that game. But he was a good player.
Shout out to Robbie Doan for holding his own against
Robbie Doan. Robbie Doan still bragging about things. He's like, what? Julius Peppers, man, go watch the tape. Watch the tape.
If I was Robbie Doan, I'd get that laser engraved on a plaque and hang it in my den that I stoned Julius Peppers in a game. All right, we'll get back to the athletics list. We'll talk about the top teams of the last 25 years here in just a second. But right now, got to let you know about our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. That is Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Do you want to control your own destiny? Then maybe franchise ownership is right for you. If you think that could be the case, then call Andy Ludicky. He's an expert at placing people in the right franchise that fits your strengths and finances. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Again, that's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net, or you can call him 404-973-9901. Again, that's 404-973-9901. And we want to thank Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise for sponsoring this edition of On Texas Football. Rod, let's go ahead and get to the best teams of
the
2000s. And again, 2005 Texas is going to be in that discussion. I think 05 Texas, 2019 LSU, pick one of Nick Saban's Alabama teams. That's tough in and of itself. Hey, which if you're power ranking Nick Saban's Alabama teams, which one would be the best? And 2001 Miami, Rod, it's hard to argue against 2001 Miami being number one on the list where the Athletic has them. Really, to me, the debate is between 2005 Texas and 2019 LSU. And I don't know. I probably, if you're just looking at the rosters on paper, I probably give 2005 Texas the edge just because that Texas team had better defensive personnel than that LSU team had.
But they have better overall offensive personnel in it when it comes down to it, right? Because listen, VY was elite, but VY ain't that much better than Joe Burrow. I mean, you can say they cancel each other out, but you're talking about transcending quarterback play. Texas had the edges, I think, in the trenches on offense and in the run the backfield. But I mean, that wide receiving core, it's one of the greatest in college football history, is it not? With Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I mean, that was just a nasty group of wideouts. So that was tough. I'm with you. I take Texas just because I'm with you. I take Texas DBs. Listen, those LSU wide receivers gonna make some plays with Joe Burrow. Sorry. Yeah. Even against that Texas defense, it's great players gonna make plays. But I do think at one point they're gonna end up making some plays on the football, even against Joe Burrow. The LSU defense, I don't know how. I don't think they actually match up well. They don't match up really well with this offense, considering the dual threat quarterback ability and the advantage in the trenches and in the run game. So I think it could end up being not a shootout, but kind of where both teams are just trying to outscore one another. And I'll give Texas the advantage there because I think they had more talent on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I think Texas defensively, they had the advantage. Even though LSU, I like their secondary and their linebackers, but I don't know if their front would have as many playmakers as Texas would have at that time.
Wouldn't you love to just take that LSU receiving group and that Texas secondary from that time in an alternate universe, put them on the field together? Because you'd have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall. Let's throw Thaddeus Young in there as a tight end. And in that Texas secondary, you have two Jim Thorpe Award winners with Aaron Ross and Michael Huff. Michael Griffin was a first rounder. Terrell Brown played in the league, played in the Super Bowl. Cedric Griffin was a second rounder. That group was deep. It was talented. Rod, as good as you were part of a great secondary, we've seen some great secondaries. In my opinion, it's the best secondary in school history, the 2005 secondary. I think that's the peak of Dwayne Akina's reinvention of DBU. That is a fantasy matchup, maybe of all fantasy matchups, that LSU receiver group against that Texas secondary.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, right, talking about that Miami, remember that Miami secondary, that's what made it so great. I mean, part of the reason was because they had 4 first rounders in the secondary. Like, who the hell has that? And in Texas was something, they were close, right? Yep. Multiple first rounders in that secondary playing for them. So I'm with you. That would have been great. I know Texas would have made some plays. They wouldn't have just gotten burnt against that LSU wide receiving core, but it would have been tough, man. So I'll take Texas above LSU. I'll take them, but not by a lot, man. Not by a lot.
If you're going to put another Texas team on this list, I think there's 3 that make an argument.
08?
08?
Yeah.
09, because you're always going to have the what if with Colt. Always going to have the what if. Even though you and I agree, Rod, the 08 team was better than the 09 team.
It was. I mean, honestly, I'm starting to think more and more that it was like a much better team, but I guess I can't say that. But it feels like that to me. But
it does. I think part of the reason is, that 08 team, the 09 team's running game was what was kind of suspect about that team.
Yeah.
People forget Chris Obanaya was a draft pick and played in the league.
Yep. And played for what, like 5-6 years in the league, something like that. And like fullback and tailback and all this kind of stuff. And then you had Quan Cosby, you had 2. You had two at the wide receiver position. So that was, to me, I think it, like I said, the more I think about it, the more time goes on, I take 2008 all day, every day. Like, it's not even a question. I take them 10 out of 10 times they played.
The other thing about 08 that I always wonder in terms of skill talent, what if Blaine Irby doesn't wreck his knee against Rice? One of the most brutal knee injuries I've ever seen on the football field.
Mm-hmm.
If Blaine Irby's healthy, it's a game changer, man. It's a total game changer because you got a difference maker at tight end. He was just, I remember him in that UTEP game. He was just like, you're like, oh man, Blaine Irby's getting ready. Maybe we're going to see the emergence of David Thomas 2.0 here. And I'm glad Blaine was able to come back eventually and finish his career at Texas. Was a big part of that win over A&M in 11. But man, what Blaine Irby could have been a special tight end.
He was actually, before his injury, he was actually a little twitchier than David Thomas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
so. He was, man. He was special before that injury, but hey, that's what it is.
Can you imagine pre knee injury Blaine Irby? Can you imagine like what Sark would have done with him at tight end? Yeah, tight end. Oh, Sark would have loved him as a move tight end. So I think the argument then is between 08 and 04. 04
is good.
Because I mean that team was a 12-0 loss to OU. And again, even though Texas lost that game, that's a great game to watch if you just like that series, because it was two teams just beating the snot out of each other for 4 quarters. A lot of pros on the field, kind of what the Texas OU game is all about.
That Texas team that's how they learned. That game was how they learned how to beat Oklahoma. You gotta learn how to beat Oklahoma in a game like that. And that, I think that was a kind of a maturation moment for them, even though they lost it. But they learned how you got to sit in the ring and just take blows and deliver them against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think I'd put the 08 team on here because I really think if you get that 2008 Texas team on the field with that Florida team, as good as Florida was, I think Colt was just operating at such an elite, just out of his mind level in 08. I just think Texas would, and the leadership you had on the team with Roy Miller and Quan Cosby and Brian Arakpo, I just feel like Texas would have found a way to win that game against Florida.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, man. Colt had that it quality.
I'll put it this way: Will Muschamp would not have let Texas get out physical in a game against Florida. I don't care who you're playing against. Will Muschamp is not going to let his defense get out physical. And plus the fact that they had played Oklahoma early in the year, and think about how much better Will Muschamp got as a defensive coordinator after that game. They would have at least been prepared to handle Florida's speed, which was a huge advantage Florida had over everybody at the time.
Yeah,
even though you've had to deal with Percy Harvin and Aaron Hernandez.
Out there, like
it would have been a nightmare. We're going to kind of go a little rapid fire here, but we'll go to the best coaches here. And Rod, I'll keep this short and sweet, and I'll just step out of the way. Mack Brown is number 9 on the list of top coaches of the 2000s. He recruited you to Texas. You played for him. You were part of that panel that interviewed him recently on 3rd and Longhorn. Why is Mack Brown, Rod, deserving of the number 9 spot? Should he be higher? Is that just right? Give me you got the floor to speak on your former head coach.
Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's about right for Coach Brown. Coach Brown had an opportunity to be higher. If there was a playoff in Mack Brown's time, 12, 16 team playoff, he had a chance to be higher up on the list because, you know, we lived in that era of Big 12 football where basically the Texas-Oklahoma game, you know, that determined who was going to represent the South in the Big 12 championship. You lost to them, and you lost to Bob Stoops way too many times early on in Mack's tenure. You basically lost your chance to play for the Big 12 title. You lose that chance, really hard to make to the BCS. And that ultimately, you know, kind of affects your ability to compete for a championship. Yeah. So I think that the playoff would have helped Mack back in the day. It didn't. And I think ultimately for Mack, he got so close to getting to those games a couple of times, right? My year was a 2001. We should have played for a national title. Should have played that 2001 Miami team. I'm not saying we would have won, but we should at least played in it. It would have helped Mack's legacy. I think ultimately you go look at that 2009, you know, that 2009 team, Cole doesn't get hurt. I know it, but Cole doesn't get hurt. That's another championship for Mack. Totally changes Mack's legacy, like forever. So Mack was so close a couple of times to really changing his legacy and jumping into the top 5 here. Like easy, like jumping into the top 5. Bob Stoops is 6. Bob Stoops, listen, I love me some Mack, but Bob Stoops pretty much owned Mack for most of his time.
Unfortunately, yeah.
At Oklahoma, yeah. But I also think Bob Stoops brought out the best in Mack Brown. Batman needs a Joker. So Mack was close to making himself a top 5 coach in that era, but I think he right there is in the top 10. I think that's ultimately, an accurate location for him, accurate spot.
I don't have a problem at all with Jim Harbaugh. As a matter of fact, I might flip Jim Harbaugh. Put Jim Harbaugh above, take him from 8 to 6 and move Bob Stoops and Jim Tressel down. Not just because Harbaugh won a national championship in Michigan, and say what you want about what rules Michigan did or didn't break. It's what Jim Harbaugh did at Stanford.
Yep.
Because Rod, I know Andrew Luck is back there as the GM. I don't know that, and you have to give Jim Harbaugh a lot of credit for what David Shaw did, because it was just here's the keys to the Ferrari, don't wreck it. What Jim Harbaugh did to build Stanford into a national championship contender with all the disadvantages we talk about Stanford having. That really, to me, of everything Jim Harbaugh's done in his football life, that to me is his best accomplishment. It's his biggest accomplishment. It's the biggest testament to the kind of, just say what you want about him as a guy, but the kind of football coach he is to do what he did at friggin' Stanford.
Yeah, he's a builder, right? He's not afraid to build a program, build an organization, and reinvent it. And he's done it multiple times at multiple stops in the league and in college. So I'm with you. He's just a ball coach, and he might be the best pure ball coach. Only him and Pete Carroll, because Pete Carroll's in that. I think Pete Carroll's just a ball coach at the NFL level, coach at the college level. Guy just knows how to coach ball. As we know, NFL and college are 2 different sports, but I know that doesn't apply here, but that still affects my, perception of these coaches.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, let's go to top programs, the top programs of the last 25 seasons in college football of this century. And Rod, Texas is at 9. Now,
okay, right with Mack.
We'll end with this. Mack Brown, just inside the top 10 of the best coaches of the last 25 years. Texas, just inside the top 10 of the best programs of the last 25 years. And for those listening on audio only, you've got Ohio State 1, Alabama 2. A lot of controversy there, because I think Alabama should be. I think it's probably Ohio State winning national championships with 3 different coaches, but nobody's ever going to do, I think, what Nick Saban did at Alabama. USC 3, Georgia 4, LSU 5. Again, national championships with 3 different coaches. Clemson at 6, Oregon at 7. Again, OU at 3, Oregon at 7, USC at 8, Texas at 9, Florida at 10.
Who's that at 5? Who's that at 5?
Oklahoma. Or I'm sorry, LSU's at 5.
LSU's at 5. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, I just think that's national championships with.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Totally. So, Rod, when people look at this list, The Athletic or whatever publication, hell, I hope OTF is still around and when we talk about 50 years of college football, even though, I'll be old and decrepit, but I'll still be here most likely. When we do this list at 50 years, what's it going to take for Texas to remain in the top 10, move into the top 5, for Sark to get into the top 10, or maybe be into that top 5? And you think about the 5 coaches that Sark would have to pass. He'd have to pass 2 of his mentors. He'd have to be up there with Nick Saban, with Pete Carroll. You're talking about Urban Meyer, Dabo Swinney. You're talking about Kirby Smart, multi-time national champion coaches. What does Sark need to do to make sure he's in the top 10 and that Texas maintains that top 10, top 5 program status?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a multi-layered question, right, for Sark. I think ultimately recruiting at the level he's recruiting at, he's got to keep doing that, staying ahead, and that's going to be tough on NIL and whatever it becomes in revenue sharing, because Texas is doing a really good job of just being one of the, I just think one of the most progressive programs out there. They try to be as proactive as they can, not reactive to whatever's happening in the circumstances. So I think that's important. But ultimately for Sark, man, he's got to evolve as a coach. I think he's got to take the next step and become someone who can not only win the battle of game plan and preparation, I talk about this all the time, but then he's got to win the battle of adjustments to it and become a better second half coach. And I think that's going to be the evolution for him this upcoming season. And you know what? Getting back to this list, how many coaches have been play callers and head coaches and been able to win a lot of championships and put their teams right here, right, among the elite teams, right? He's got an added burden. I'm not saying that he needs to give it up. No, hell no. He's great. So keep doing what you're doing. But it is an added burden because we haven't seen a lot of examples, right? I mean, Jimbo Fisher's done it, but you don't see a ton of examples of that. So that's another added burden that's why he's got to figure it out. He's not delegating that responsibility. That's on the man in the mirror. He's got to evolve real time and become a better second half coach and better at adjusting to, opposing game plan. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think just watching film, that's what he's got to do better.
I like the fact that as we go into this next 25 years of college football, Texas is the program that's, Georgia's been there. We've seen Georgia's breakthrough under Kirby, Ryan Day and Ohio State. They broke through.
Yep.
Now it's Texas and Sark. They're the team that's okay. We've knocked on the door a few times. Now, can we kick it in? Can we get on the other side and be in a national championship game, win a national championship? It's exciting, right? It's exciting to think, okay, now as we get ready for this next 25, Texas is that program that we're looking at. It's fun to think about where it can go. And I'm with you. I think Sark has the pieces to do it. I just think and we're not talking about wholesale changes. It's just if he keeps evolving and the trajectory, it's kind of like we talk about players, right? We talk about coaches too. If the trajectory remains kind of as it's gone, I think he'll get over the hump. Texas will get over the hump. And I still think he's got a chance to do so. I think the main thing looking back on this, Rod, is in this last 25 years, Texas has left some meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. And I think by the time Sark's tenure is done, can we look at, maybe there's always going to be some meat left on the bone, but can you almost pick that thing clean? In other words, can we look at it? There was some, but you know what? I don't really worry about that because Sark did enough. There's multiple championships. Really, can Sark equal and maybe surpass what Coach Royal did in the 60s?
Yeah, because Coach Royal maximized what the program was capable of.
Yes.
We love Mack, but it is true, and we all know it, that Mack did not maximize what Texas was capable of. That's what's incredible. He's a Hall of Fame coach, and Texas had 9 straight 10-win seasons and won a national championship, and had some of the most iconic and I think most successful seasons in the history of the program. But who all of us who lived through it, we know, he underachieved. Like half the time he was at Texas, and that's the challenge for Sark. Can you maximize it? Just like you said, like DKR did. You don't want to just be what Mack did, because Mack had success, but you said Mack left a lot of meat on the bone. Mack didn't maximize the capability of the program. Can Sark do that? I will say right now, he seems to be close to doing so.
Yeah.
And no regression so far.
That to me is the difference. If you go back and think of those top coaches, Rod, those 6 multi-time national championship winning head coaches, that's the line of delineation between like Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart. You think about very differently than you do Jim Tressel, Bob Stoops, and Mack Brown. At Dabo and Kirby, you're like, multiple national championships. That's getting probably you're a legend at that point. You're cemented, no doubt, Hall of Famer. Your legacy is secure. This guy's that only won 1 though. It's like, where could that other one have come? And all of those coaches, Tressel, Stoops, Mack, you can find multiple seasons where they probably should have broken through at least one of those times and gotten one.
Yep. Now Stoops is, like I said, Oklahoma fans look at Stoops the same way we kind of look at Mack, like, hey, come on, big game, Bob. You ain't no anything, just that one.
It is tough when Barry Switzer won. When Barry Switzer won 3 while he was at OU. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Just like it's tough. It's tough to get to that Coach Royal standard, but we'll see if Sark can get there. I'm not calling my shot, Rod, whether he does or not, but I'm sure as hell ready to see him try.
Hey, like I said, I want Sark to go to the league. My prediction is he won't leave to go to the NFL until he wins multiple national titles at Texas. So I'm hoping that he gets his chance to coach in the league. Hopefully win 2 with Arch, and then both of y'all can go to the league. It's all good. It's all good at that point. We'll find somebody good. We'll find somebody new. It's okay.
You do the Willie Beeman, Al Pacino thing from Any Given Sunday. Yeah, I'm taking this pro job, and I'm taking my quarterback with me.
Yeah, you damn right. Yeah, hey, it could happen. It could happen.
All right, Rod, this was fun. I know we went a little long
Whatever.
for what we normally do these, but this was a lot of fun. So thanks for sitting in with me for this
Anytime,
edition
bro.
of Texas football, looking at the last 25 seasons of college football. Thanks to Rod for the knowledge and expertise. As always, big thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for hanging out with us and making it happen. Damn good at what he does. And thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. Make sure you subscribe to the On Texas Football YouTube channel if you're not already. Like this video. And don't forget, if you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, go over there right now, sign up, use the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. Again, that's the promo code OTFOG, 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. For Rod Babers, for Matthew behind the scenes, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, hook 'em.
Look at guys.